As the world gets difficult to navigate, my next guest says it's crucial we have strength inside the home. So Studio 5 parenting contributor Heather Johnson says we need families, and we need families that can bounce back when the challenges come. And Heather joins me here in studio. Thanks for being here. You know, we talk about family, we need each other, of course, but especially in those hard times, that's the crucial time, don't you think?
It is. That's when we need each other the most. And the interesting thing about the hard times is that they are going to show up. It kind of used to be we felt as families it was like an if we faced something challenging, and now it's when. Because all of our families are dealing with challenging things all the time. I think COVID taught us this, right? Where we were in a situation where it wasn't that we, needed our families, it was we only had our families, and so we had to learn to rely on them. This ability to bounce back too is so powerful in our homes for other reasons and ways that it connects us. For example, when we're a bounce back family, then when our kids struggle, they have a lot of confidence in coming to us, opposed to finding resources outside of a family system. Those types of things are reasons why we want to be a bounce back family.
A bounce back family. I love that. We're going to talk about that, weathering those storms together. And you have some pointers for us if we want to be that type of family. And the first one is the one that works for every relationship, right? But communication, how do we do that as a family better?
That's key. And if there's one thing we could probably take a step back and all families start working on, it would be this. Families who can bounce back, who can weather storms, have open communication. Now, this means two key things. It means first that family members feel really safe bringing any type of emotion or situation to our family system, right? It means that if they're having a hard day, someone can express that. If something's challenging, they can express that. That's a key part of open communication. Now, on our end, especially as parents, sometimes we hinder open communication, right? When we have a child come to us and say, this is really hard, and we say, no, it's not, you're fine, right? Or they express that their feelings were hurt, in high school that day. And we say, I don't see why you think of it as that big of a deal. You won't even know them in 3 years. When we respond in those types of ways, it doesn't take too many of those responses for our kids to decide, this isn't a really safe place to communicate.
Yes, I have learned that over the years. I've wanted open communication, and then it's like sometimes I wish I hadn't heard what I just heard, but I've learned silence on my part is key for me, so I don't say something like that that's not the best thing to say.
Yeah, to just be a really good listener and know that that is the most important part of communicating, right? To be able to listen when those things are brought. Listening makes a space safe. The other thing that's really key to open communication is when our families can weather storms, our communication means that we don't hide from problems. So it means that when something is difficult or something is challenging, we are willing to go right towards it, that we're willing to face it and deal with it and discuss it and bring it up. We want to be that type of family, and it can be so uncomfortable. If as parents you're not raised in an environment where this happened, it can be really uncomfortable to figure out how to try and navigate this. If we're overwhelmed, if we don't have our own emotions under control. But this one is a really big deal,
Number one.
Yep.
And second, you talk about our attitude, just having a positive attitude. I don't know why I relate everything back to the pandemic, but I think it started there, or that was a big point for us, and we got to continue.
We do. This positive life view, again, families who can weather difficult things or weather the storms, who can bounce back, they have a positive view on two things. First, they have a positive view on challenges themselves. They see challenges as opportunities. Now see how this turns into a magical equation. When we want to be a family who can get through something challenging, we've got to be able to look at that challenge as an opportunity for us to grow or come closer or hone in on skills. We've got to be able to do that. I think back to my family growing up, and one of the biggest challenges that we ever faced was we made a huge move as a family. It was right before my senior year in high school. My brothers, everyone uprooted what we'd been doing for 18 years up to this point. And I watched as on the surface, it was this huge challenge. And as we came together to look at it as an opportunity, our family has never been, more blessed in a million ways. So many good things came from it when we saw it as an opportunity. So we want to be sure that we see these challenges as an opportunity. We also want to make sure that we have a really positive view of the world. We've got to look at the world not as out to get us, or not as everyone is bad or mean, but we've got to see hope in the world that we live in. That positive life view helps families bounce back.
Yes, I love that. Just changes the whole attitude of your family. And your next one is talking about building a collective confidence as a family.
As a family, where we're doing things together, where we're working. This is a big one where we build this collective confidence by working together, where when we ask of each other, we follow through. in very little ways. It could be something simple like, hey, could you pass the salt? And we can trust that whoever's got it will pass it over and they'll do it with kindness, to those bigger things like, hey, I'm feeling a little nervous about this. Could you walk with me and we discuss it? That collective confidence comes from us working and experiencing life together. When we feel like we can do it, that collective confidence will actually get us through difficult things better or more successfully than our individual confidence.
And you always know those people have your back.
Always, that they have your back.
I love that. I just heard a quote, someone saying, you know, don't worry about what everyone else thinks of you. When you want to be liked, just come home, because we like you here. And so I kind of see that in that you know you can rely on those people. They always are there for you. Next, you say we need to be resourceful.
Use our resources and ask for help. Families who weather storms and bounce back, they are open to asking for help. Now, this gets tricky. It's very hard to ask for help if you feel shame in your challenges. This is where we have to remember all families face challenges. And as soon as you think a family has never faced one, it's simply because they haven't talked about it and you haven't seen it, not because they haven't faced it. And so when we feel shame about the challenges or that they're a result of us not being good enough as parents, we will not be resourceful. We won't reach out and let other people help or rely on them or even acquire of them to ask for that advice or those solutions that could help us. So we want to make sure that we're not facing or viewing challenges from that perspective. It will hurt us. It makes it hard to bounce back.
Yeah, it does. And your next one about solving problems together, that kind of goes along with that, because you're saying reach out for help. We all need to work together.
And maybe you've experienced this. I think some of the sweetest solutions to problems in our family have actually come from our kids. They've come from our family sitting together, and it could be a logistical problem, like how are we going to get 8 people to 8 different places at the same time on the same night? And it can be deeper. It can be a child who's struggling, and it's their sibling who happens to say, hey, what if we do this or help in this way? Solving problems together, we want to be open-minded. We want to let everyone into the problems that are appropriate for everyone to be a part of. If we want to get through storms, we've got to trust that if we put something on the table, everyone will have the family's best interest in mind when they're working through it. So being able to reach out and solve these problems is a really big deal. It is, it's a big deal.
And all of your tips here today are interconnected, which is your last tip, is for us as a family to be interconnected. That plays into all these other things you've been teaching us today.
It does. It applies to everything. Being interconnected, and even as we solve these problems like we talked about, this means that we can adapt. It means that we can renegotiate a situation. It means that if you're on a family vacation and you were supposed to go to the beach but it rains, everyone can modify plans, right? And that interconnectedness allows us to change up our roles, to change up responsibilities, and to be open-minded to change plans when we need to. And all of this really does start and end with an ability to create such a safe space for us to communicate with one another. So start there. We want to weather storms because they're coming. We've already faced them and more will show up. So that ability to bounce back is really key, and we build it at home. That's where we build it.
These are ways we can be a bounce back family. Thanks so much, Heather. You know, she coaches and counsels families and individuals, and you can find her contact info on our website.